Mr. Wayne Nugent!
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Yay! I feel like Marcusetta. Wow, that feels awesome. You know, I don't know, was it quite a year ago? We were in Fort Worth, and we rented out the Fort Worth Convention Center. And Fort Worth is where I went to high school. And for us to do an event in the city where I went to high school was kind of a big deal, you know? I mean, like, wow, I grew up here. I mean, I grew up going to this this convention center for other things, other big things as a kid and throughout my life, you know? And then next thing you know, us, WorldVentures, were renting out, this big convention center. And I was like, wow, man, this is us. This is our company. And now, here we are in Houston, Texas. Yeah. And this is where I went, this is where I grew up and went to elementary school. And, my mom and dad, this is where they first met, and they eloped to California. But, I'm staying at the Four Seasons, and I look out the window. And when I look out the window, right over here to the left, I see this Toyota Center. And over to the right, I see this church with a steeple. And the church downtown here is named Sacred Heart. And my grandfather is 95 years old. He probably lives like 3 or 4 miles from here, right on the edge of downtown. And he goes to church every day at that church, and he's an usher. I've been going there my whole life. Midnight mass for Christmas, but just my whole life. And I remember being there with my grandmother, and they passed the offering basket up and down the aisles, and my grandmother would always give me the money to put in the basket. And I remember asking her, how do you know what they're going to do with the money? And she says, that's not for you to worry about. You give with a willing heart. And they didn't have a lot. And to be there with my grandparents and be in church like that with them and watch them give when they didn't have a lot to give with 8 kids of their own, that still impresses me. And, I always like giving credit to my grandparents for what they did for me when I grew up. And, my grandfather, as far as, his wisdom. And the Bible says, above all things, pray for wisdom. And then my grandmother, she never let me leave the house without blessing me and praying over me. And, And so I've always felt like I've had God on my side because, as a kid growing up here, I'd get in trouble. I never got away with anything. As I look back on my life, I can't remember anything I ever got away with. Thank goodness, thank God, So now, as I'm here with you all, kind of where I have so many of those memories that I felt like just formed who I am, I feel like the biggest responsibility I have as a founder is to be a good steward. To really protect long-term what it is that we've built together. As the chief visionary officer, I have that role to play. But tomorrow, I go into an all-day meeting with our PAC team leaders, as I do after every big event like this. And, we plan the future together. And that's where you're represented. You're represented, through your upline, through the PAC team, and we get in these all-day sessions with them, not just after big events like this, but at other times. And they represent you. I want you all to know that your leadership, they're such wonderful people. I mean, they're such great, phenomenal leaders. And here we are going on 10 years old. And I've been saying it recently that I believe if you'll be here at our 10-year anniversary, you'll be here at our 20-year anniversary. We've become wildly successful with this product called Dream Trips that I had the idea for really going on about 18 years ago. And so we've done really well with that. But when you invest the $40 million in technology and another $40 million into other forms of infrastructure with our company to support you all, you haven't experienced the benefits of that yet. And so as good as we've done up to this point, when you make that kind of investment, you got to let yourself get a little excited, about the future. But I will tell you this. When you do that and you all go to work with this new investment and what that's going to mean, it just creates a whole different kind of problems, a whole different set of problems. We've always grown. Over these 10 years, we've always grown. We've always been on the leading edge. And the whole way, we've had to ask you to continue to believe in us, continue to believe in each other. And we're always going to have to ask you for that because as a company, you always want to be on the edge of, wiping out, kind of like a race car. You want to be pushing the race car to the limit. Otherwise, you're just inefficient. So as a company, we make these investments. You're going to see, wow, this is awesome. It's only going to grow that much faster. And so for us, it's just going to create a whole different kind of problems that we got to deal with. And that is the nature of business, is to solve problems, handle problems. That's what we as an executive team and a corporate team do all the time. As we grow and grow and grow, it's always the problem that we're trying to solve. What's the problem you're trying to solve with your product, with your opportunity? What's the day-to-day operations like? What's the stuff that's coming into us that we got to deal with? And so this is where we see ourselves as servant leaders for you. And how do we work with one another? It's important that inside our corporate office that we're happy to work with one another the same way you are happy to work with all your field leaders. And I really feel good about our company right now. I really feel good about our future and the talent that we're attracting. And I'm really happy and excited to report to you that the mindset and the heart set of our internal team, they have these 3 primary characteristics. And I think it's important that you know the 3 primary characteristics that we look for before hiring anybody or even going down the path to hire somebody. Number 1, do they have the character? Are they good people? Number 2, do they have the competence to do the job? And number 3, do they have the caring? The caring to be a servant leader to you. And then that's what gets them in the door. And then we kind of go from there. But wouldn't you agree that's a really good set of standards to start off with? Character, competence, and caring. So that is the foundation. Now, I've been doing this for 20 years. And through those 20 years, as a leader, as a salesperson, as a professional network marketer, I've worked through remember the tech wreck? And remember the last economy we just went through? And so, because everything is so good for us around the world, and is so good in the company, and we're making all these investments, the only concern I have is the greater world economy. Now, am I alone in this, or do you see the news as well? Now, what happens is I've been able to work through those and actually not only succeed, but thrive. And I want to show you how I did it, because I don't know what the future holds. But what I do know is I love this company. I know the leaders here love this company. When people ask me, where do I see us in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I can't think less than that. I think at a minimum 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. Everything we're doing right now is to set us up for the next 15 to 20 years. All these investments we're making are to set us up for the next 15 to 20 years. And I don't know what the immediate future holds, but I know at some point in the future, the economy goes up and the economy goes down. And the economy goes back up and the economy goes back down. What I care most about is that you all have a very business-minded, global perspective. Because those of you that are here right now, today, that made the effort to be here, I consider you the foundation. Because you're here. And when I'm finished talking, I want you to know that I knight each one of you leaders. Because we live in the information age. And when you leave here, you're going to have information that the masses of the population around this country and around the world just don't have. You know about this company. You know about our product. You know where we're at. You know where we're going. And you're going to know how to really be a part of us for the next 20 years. And so, but when I'm finished, I'll go ahead and do it right now. I'm just going to knight you all as leaders. I'm gonna assume. Hey, and I don't know about this. I don't know if I got any kind of God-given ability to bless y'all, but I'm blessing y'all. You know what I mean? If I do, if he says, okay, I'm blessing y'all, you know. And I'll just take a time out here and ask y'all to do me a favor. You know, continue to pray for me. Continue to pray for this company. There's science. There's science to support this nowadays about the power of that. So you can Google that on your own. I've been looking for my clicker. It's been behind me the whole time. Okay. Oh. Okay. So as a professional speaker, salesperson, network marketer, one thing that I've always done through the years to help me talk to a prospect and give some perspective to everything is I use the news. So when we talk about, you know, just press play or any presentation, there's what you say in addition to the legal presentation that we give you. You know, we work to develop these presentations with our legal and compliance department, but there is what you say in between the slides. A part of what I've always done is use the news, especially during questionable economic times. And just since I've been here in Houston and checked into my hotel, and I come down in the morning, and I talk to the front desk, and I ask you, can you give me today's paper? The Wall Street Journal, the Financial Times, the Houston Chronicle. And I can tell you right here in front of me, all these newspapers, the front page news does not read good. If you read this stuff and you understand it with some perspective, I mean, it can be pretty worrisome, pretty scary. The Eurozone, Greece, China, their stock market being down 30% in the last 17 days. Greece, you know, they locked Cyprus. They went in and took people's money out of their bank accounts. In Greece, you couldn't even go into the bank. They said, okay, you can withdraw so much money from the ATM machines, right? This is your money. What if in WorldVentures, you know, you're working, you got your money, you got it in the bank, and then you can't even go get your money out of your bank? That would suck if that ever happened here, wouldn't it? But you know we're open in Greece. You know we're open in Cyprus. I find something really wrong and scary about that. And you know, you got the BRICS right here. BRIC leaders warn of official instability amid global upheaval. Look at China, their stock market. The only reason it didn't go down more than 30% is because they took 1,400 of the biggest company stocks and made it to where you're not allowed to sell them. You're not allowed to trade them. And if you own stocks in those companies, you got to wait 6 months to sell any of it. Otherwise, where would that stock market be? You know, I don't want to dive too deep in that, other than to tell you that is the real world, but then there's our world. When you go out to sell a recruiter prospect, I remember the last time this happened, before the news went this way, back in 2007, 2008, all that, there were no Amway commercials on TV. There were no Mary Kay commercials. And then when the news went like that here in America, all of a sudden you saw Amway commercials and Mary Kay commercials. And they started recruiting over 100,000 people a month. Why? Because all the people that were too cool for school, and is that one of those pyramids? When they start losing their stuff, they get real open-minded. Now, y'all heard cash is king? cash flow is king. Because if you had cash in that bank and they lock it up, is your cash king? No, you can't even get to it. But if you got cash flow, you call us up and redirect it or something. You better build a business. You better learn to be a leader and build a downline and build an asset that just pays you wherever you may go. Isn't that better thinking than being locked in somewhere? Give you some choice. I remember back in, 2000 and 2001. I mean, when I first started with Dream Trips and the Dream Trips idea back then, imagine being in the travel business and all of a sudden 9/11 happened. And we dipped for about 2 weeks and then came back. Why? Because the nature of our business versus normal. Other travel companies didn't come back like that. So we survived in the travel business 9/11. But let me tell you what we didn't survive. Greed and ego internally. This is a Millionaire BootCamp weekend, and it has this military theme. And I'm here to tell you, I care about the kind of army we're building. Which means I care about each and every one of you. And I want you to be your best self. And the flip side of that same coin is a rotten apple ruined a bunch. And in the Marine Corps, there's usually always less than 200,000 Marines. Our company's going on signing up 100,000 new members a month. So in 2 months, we're as big as the entire Marine Corps? Think about that. When I went to boot camp, I started out as the lowly private. But because I got a great attitude, a lot of it just because, having God in your heart, you have a right attitude. I got meritorious promotions. I worked hard. I worked smart. So I definitely want you to have the right attitude. I definitely want you to be a part of the solution. If this ever happens, I don't know if this will ever happen. I hope it never does. If it doesn't, we're just going to fly along, no problem. If it does, and the world starts serving us lemons, we're going to make lemonade. I don't worry about this if we got the right kind of army with the right kind of attitude. So this is my Marine Corps manual, the guidebook for Marines. This was issued to me 30 years ago when I went into boot camp. And when you go to chapter 5 of this book, and it talks about the leadership traits of a Marine and the leadership principles of being a Marine. These things have not changed in 30 years when I got this book. If you go to their website, I got this book before there was an internet, before there was a YouTube. But now, if you go Google this, Guidebook for Marines, leadership traits, you're going to be able to see a video clip on each one of these traits. Integrity, knowledge, courage, decisiveness, dependability, initiative, tact. Matt knows, when we're in boot camp and you're in the barracks, each one of the steps, there's a riser of the stairs. On the riser of each of these stairs, these traits we're kind of on the riser. And as you go up the steps all the time, you see these words in front of you all the time. Now, before these Marine Corps leadership traits, you know, right here, number 3 in this book, it says, as for moral, there's 2 kinds of courage. You know, there's physical courage and then there's moral courage. But it says, as for moral courage, know what's right and stand up for it. Marines are not plaster saints by any means, but they serve God, country, and Corps, in that order. It says here that the 10 Commandments are still a pretty good set of regulations, and they haven't changed. They haven't had a change published for almost 2,000 years. I love that. I love that. Even my guidebook for Marines is telling me to go, you know, look at, you know, the 10 Commandments. So I would like y'all to go look up those words and study those words and watch videos on those words. You can totally apply them in your life and in your business. You know, always pay attention to the 10 Commandments. And we've got our core values. So before we had our core values, you know, I had this. Before I had this, I had the 10 Commandments. That's how you build yourself internally. That's how you build your character. When y'all are going to love this. In the Marine Corps, you either go in enlisted or you can join and become an officer. If you go in like right after high school without any college education, you know, you're considered enlisted. If you go to college, you get a 4-year degree and then go in the Marine Corps, then you can be an officer. And the pay is different. And of course, most of the soldiers, you know, are these enlisted folks. And you make little money. I mean, a lot of times you make below the poverty level. I remember I'm living in, you know, open squad bay. Man, I'm living in this one place, man. Woo. You know, latrines in a whole nother building, and it's like a horse ride. You get in the shower. I had to take a broom with me to the shower because the cockroaches that come out, they just dive bomb you when you're in the shower. You know, when you're in these rooms with all these Marines, man, they're through the night, man, they're farting and before they go, they're smoking. I mean, you just stink. You know, you don't get paid enough. I'm telling you. Then. At times, we live out of a holding ground for a month at a time. I mean, believe me, Marine Corps is, you know, way harder than being a rep in WorldVentures. And it doesn't pay anywhere near as good. Oh, my gosh. So, as an enlisted, that's not even on here. This officer pay scale, you have to be in a minimum of 20 years. Do you see where it says in the far left-hand column, over 20 years? And you go to the right, and let's say you're an O10, which is like a general. And if you have to be in a minimum of 20 years to even qualify for this check and be an officer and be a general. And it says up there, you're going to make $16,000 a month. You know what the responsibility is at that level? The pay scale goes on and says, you see down there in the bottom right, you have to be in a minimum of, or over 40 years and be at the top rank, and you still make less than $20,000 a month. So for me to go after something like this, I mean, you can see why relative to pay in the real world. But make no bones about it, you're becoming a great soldier. You're gonna build an army. One of the books that we refer to a lot and ask you to read, or at least this is really the meat of it. This is the meat of this book, Tribal Leadership. We ask you to do your personality test. Are you red, blue, yellow, green, right? Do that self-evaluation. But you got to be honest with yourself and ask, where am I as a leader? I highlighted the one column on the language of each stage. So stage 1 leaders say, life sucks. Stage 2 leaders say, okay, my life sucks. Not all life sucks, just my life. They make that distinction. And so many of us are trying to get to stage 3, which says, I'm great. I can do it. I. And you do have to get there. And we do want you to get there, where you really believe in yourself and you're capable and you prove some things to yourself. You need to get there. But here's what I'm asking you for. The stage 4 leadership that talks in terms of we. We're great. And when we can get everybody thinking this way, starting from where you're at, knowing the stages that you're on your way, as soon as we can get you here, the better. That we're great. And that when you understand I'm great, and we get amongst the pack team, this is what's fun for us. We realize that individually we're great. As a team, we say, we talk, the way we are as leaders, we talk about we're great. But when we get together as a pack team and we co-create this company, we're talking about just life's great. And we talk about how can we change the world. And I think you see this happening. I think you see it happen in America. I think you see it happen in all the countries we're in. I think you know that that's our intent. That here we are, this special company with special people. Yes, it's a fun product that brings friends and families together. That's what I wanted. I wanted a company where friends and families can come together and take trips around the world and create memories that'll last a lifetime. And we've done that. We're doing that. In a crazy, hectic world like this, you know what this stuff does? It breeds your prospects. And you're just asking people, do you want to stay in this world, or do you want to come join our world? And you're saying more than join me. You're saying join we. And here's what we're going to go do. Here's how we work together, here's how we win big, and here's how we give big. And I'm so proud of our company that that's just baked into our culture. To start you where you're at, we team up together, we help you win big, and then we give big. Wow, that's cool. So I always looked at it like, a stage 3 leader, I've always identified with eagles and dolphins because my blue nature. But, that symbol of eagle is just so powerful and strong and independent. And we all wow. But man, the more I think about it, I want to be a goose. We're going to have the sense of a goose. I love the way geese, just work together. They fly in that V formation. There's always one side longer than the other. You know why that is? There's more birds on that side. That lead bird cuts drag up to 70%. And based on the laws of aerodynamics, they always thought this, but they actually did this. They actually strapped heart monitors to pelicans. And they do the same thing, flying information over the water and all that. And they proved it. That lead bird cuts drag up to 70%. That's how NASCAR works, drafting. That's how bicycle races work, drafting. Not one person wins the race. It's the same thing here. That leader goes. Peach was telling you. He put the blinders on, man. He went. Then he met the love of his life. He's got a baby. He took 5 months off on a honeymoon. Woohoo, fantastic. I love that. I love that the guy's been working hard his whole life. He applies that leadership here, builds a team, and now he's able to do that. That'll probably happen with Grizz one day, as hard as he's working. So, but all weekend long, when we do this recognition, you see how these leaders get up here and they think their team. As leaders, we know what it's like to be that lead bird, but we also know what it's like to get tired sometimes and rotate back into the group. And the truth is, every one of these leaders will tell you, them being on stage up here, or actually more than that, actually them coming to these events and just being with you energizes them. I know for me, I know for our executive team, us, we love coming to these events too. We love being with you too. It energizes us. I mean, we are a company with big ideas and a big vision. We think big, we think long term. We're building this ecosystem. It's coming together. Dan as the CEO is doing a great job. Eddie carrying a lot of load day to day, and John and Kyle all over the world. And I look across our leadership team, Roberto and his great attitude. I look across and it's just, here we are. We're building this ecosystem. And we're building something that just doesn't exist. There's nothing to compare it to. But I have to ask you to be visionary with us. Have the common vision with us. You have up to this point. But what happens when that vision continues to expand and grow? Are you expanding your vision and growing with us? And what I'm telling you is, as this product evolves into its next stage, I'm going to continue to ask you to be this army that's in lockstep. I want you to be a great individual. I want you to be a great team. I want you to be this wonderful army. But there's times now going forward where a lot of the corporate leadership, a lot of the field leaders, we are going to ask you to engage with us in this new digital frontier. We're going to start doing business with businesses. We're going to start doing business with businesses around the world. And those businesses that decide to do business with us do kind of expect something from us. And if we are an engaged, loyal army that is in lockstep, and we say, go do this for this business, and you actually go do it, it's going to move the ticker. And I'm telling you, WorldVentures, everything we do is aspirational. We don't do cheap vacations cheap. Everything we do is 4 and 5 star. We want the world's best businesses to do businesses with us. So I'm planting a seed with you right now that as this continues to evolve and this continues to unfold, there's going to come a time where we just continually call on you to really co-create this company further, to crowdsource the product development. And it's a different kind of business model. I'm not trying to compete in the travel industry. I'm trying to change the travel industry. Was Skype competing with the telecom business, or did it just change it? And we are in a similar position to do that with travel and more. And taken as a whole, it creates our ecosystem that for us makes a great life for our friends and our family. All right, thank you.